Now let's discuss something called SWOT analysis. SWOT is an acronym, and I'll go over it in a second.
This video is brought to you by Appy Pie Academy.
It's really something you do during the business planning or business analysis phase. And SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And that gives you a holistic look at your business. Let's go through them one by one. First, our strengths. And any different businesses can have different strengths. Some examples of them, and consider which ones are strengths for you. Maybe you have certain experience in your field, certain types of skills, maybe design, maybe programming, maybe marketing, some skill, maybe extra productivity skills, some skills that really set you apart and give you an advantage over your competitors. Maybe you have access to resources like some software or some machinery or some tools that others maybe don't have. Maybe you have some insight or an interesting way to differentiate yourself. Maybe you have money that other people don't have. Those can be potential strengths that can give you an immediate advantage in a certain business idea. On the other hand, you might have weaknesses, and they are actually quite opposite of each other. A strength can be having funding, a weakness can be having no funding, and a weakness can be having a small team, whereas a strength can be having a lot of skills on your team. And a weakness can be lack of resources like time and money, things like that. And ironically or interestingly, what happens is when you're starting out, most of these, they're weaknesses. People have small teams, little money, little resources, but as they choose maybe their little niche and they grow into that little niche and they start generating money, they maybe get some people working with them, they acquire resources and they become stronger and stronger, and those weaknesses slowly turn into strengths. Well then, you can begin to hire, you have more experience, and so over time your weaknesses can turn into strengths. But if you have too many weaknesses in the beginning, it might be just quite damaging to your business and it might be hard to grow. Now, to create a path for your business, for your weaknesses to become strengths, you need to see what are the opportunities to explore. Maybe you're approaching some big market, but there's a market subsegment that is underserved, and maybe there's opportunity to get into that, some specific niche. Maybe you have some competitor that is weak at the moment, or maybe they're distracted, or maybe something's happening to the competitor and you can take their customers. So that way, if you have an opportunity, you can start, of course, in some area with some weaknesses, but then quickly turn them into strength and grow into a bigger business. And you always want to look out for potential threats to your business. Threats can be if your competitors are strong, or if there are many of them, if there are some economic downturns coming up, if you are in a declining market, for example, like in the 90s, the newspaper market that declined, if you have kind of customers who don't pay readily, right? They're sometimes referred to as low-end customers or a low-end market. I don't like that term low-end, but that's the term. Or maybe you are actually targeting a too tiny of a niche, because you do have to choose your niche carefully. If you target it too tiny, there's very little money to be made. If you target too big, it's hard to promote. So that's where you evaluate all of this holistically, and then it gives you a sense of, is some business idea viable, or are there too many weaknesses? Are there not enough opportunities? Are there too many threats? Or is it opposite? Is there not that many threats and a lot of opportunities, and it's going to be easy to turn weaknesses into strength, or weaknesses won't hinder you that much? So this is something you need to do during business planning, and every once in a while when your business is up and running, when you're analyzing how to move forward.